Welcome back. In this video, we're going to be looking at finding critical values with the chi-square distribution. So we're looking at confidence intervals for variance and standard deviation, and we want to find our critical values. That's been a major part of our process up to this point, so we're going to find critical values. Now, with our other distributions, we've only needed to find one critical value. I needed one z alpha over 2 because my distribution was symmetrical, about 0, so it was really plus or minus z alpha over 2. In this case, my distribution of chi-square, which when you draw a chi-square distribution, you're going to label it chi-square, and you're going to list the degrees of freedom after it. So when we look at this distribution, it's not symmetrical and it's not centered about 0. So these two values don't necessarily have anything in common, and I have to find both values independently. If I look at my table, it's area to the right. So when I'm looking at my picture, I need to keep that in mind. I want area to the right. So I have critical values chi-square left and chi-square right for a 95% confidence interval. As expected, the right values to the right, the left values to the left. So when I look at this problem, I have a 95% confidence. So my confidence level is 95%, which means alpha is 0.05 and alpha over 2 is 0.025. So I'm going to draw that here. So this area here is 0.025, and this area here is 0.025. The area inside will be 0.95. So this will be my chi-square left and my chi-square right. I now need to know the degrees of freedom of my graph. So sample size 25, n is 25. My degrees of freedom are n minus 1, so that's 24. So I have 24 degrees of freedom, and I have 0.025. Okay, so to the right of my chi-square right is 0.025, and to the right of my chi-square left is 0.025 plus 0.95, which is 0.975. So now I'm going to go to my table. So I'm pulling out my table, and I'm going to find 24 degrees of freedom. I'm going to find 0.975 and 0.025. This table gets kind of difficult for me to read. So I made a table that's a little bit more helpful. If you notice in here, if you look carefully at these values, 0.9 and 0.1, these have the same area outside of them. This has 0.1 to the left, this has 0.1 to the right. So these two columns will be our 80% confidence level. So the inside columns are the 80% confidence level. The next two, 0.95 and 0.05, these represent the 90% confidence level. 0.975 and 0.025, the 95, 0.99 and 0.01 are the 98, 0.995 and 0.005 is the 99% confidence level. I'm going to draw on this particular graph, but you are welcome to use just a straight edge to, if you want to mark up one of these, and then you can easily not have to draw all over it all the time. You can just use another piece of paper or a ruler to help you find for your degrees of freedom. I'm going to mark this one up so that we can keep it straight though. All right, so I have 24 degrees of freedom. So I'm going to come down to 24, and I am going to look at those values. And we have a confidence level of 95. So I'm looking at the pink, 95% is there and there. That gives me a chi-square left value of 12.401 and a chi-square right value of 39.364. So those are my two chi-square values. You'll notice I added 24 in parentheses here. We're labeling this graph as chi-square with 24 degrees of freedom. As I continue for 99%, I have chi-square left, chi-square right. This is 0.99, so this will be 0.005 and 0.005. I'm getting really comfortable knowing these numbers, the alpha over 2 values related to the confidence levels, because this isn't my first time working with them. So for a 95% confidence level, alpha is 0.01, so alpha over 2 is 0.005. So that would mean to the right is 0.005, and to the right is 0.995. Or I can have doctored up my table. Okay, so then I have a sample size of 15. So that means I will have 14 degrees of freedom. So I'm going to come to my table. 14 degrees of freedom is here, and I want a 99, I don't know why I wrote 95, 99% confidence. So 99% confidence is blue. That is 4.075 for my chi-square left. And chi-square right will be 31.319. So those are my two chi-square values. For my last problem, I have a 90% confidence level, so 0.90. This will be 0.05. This will be 0.05. So confidence level is 90%. Alpha is 0.1, 0.1. Alpha over 2 is 0.05. My N is 46, so my degrees of freedom is 45. Awesome. So now I'm going to go to my table, 90% confidence, I'm going to be in the green, and I want 45. My table has 40 and 50, but not 45. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to do some interpolation. What that means is I know 45 is between 40 and 50, so I'm going to average these two values. So for my chi-square left value, I have 26.509 plus 34.764. Divide that by 2. So here's my calculator. I have 26.509 plus 34.764 divided by 2 gives me 30.6365 for my chi-square left. And my chi-square right value is going to be the average of these two. So that's 55.758 plus 67.505 divided by 2. That gives me 61.6315 for my chi-square right value. That's how we find our critical values. Make sure you know how to do this really well before you continue on to making the confidence intervals.